Order up.
Welcome to Overproof. My name is Sarah Mars, and this week is roundtable number 2 from the Maybe Cocktail Festival. That's right, we are back with another massive roundtable. Now, I do not want to spoil too much for you. I'm going to let the guys do all of the talking for this one. So instead, I am just going to give you their names. I'm not going to introduce them too much to you because you're going to hear all of this in the podcast. Guys, if you want to make hospitality your career, then this is the podcast that you should listen to, because these guys, I was like a sponge in this interview. These guys share their knowledge, their passion, their thoughts on the industry. And if you want to make hospitality your career, I suggest that you listen because there's a lot of valuable insight in this episode. So first up, we have the one and only Jacob Briars, who used to be known as the vodka professor. Next up, we have Ricardo Nava, who is the co-founder of Bar Mauro, a new neighborhood venue in Mexico City that's starting to make waves. We have Agostino Perrone from the Connaught, the king of the martini. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a Maybe Cocktail Festival interview without the one and only Stefano Catino. He joins me to help host these beautiful people and be hosted himself as well. So thank you so much, guys. That's enough from me. Let's jump in.
Order up.
Oh, sorry, you're here as well? Good. We needed some... Otherwise, this is a bunch of dudes on camera.
It's always a bunch of dudes.
I know. Well, yeah. Welcome to the cocktail industry.
That's why we started this job.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. We didn't start these jobs because we wanted to hang out with men.
We wanted
to meet
we
women.
wanted to be with a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
So welcome to Overproof. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. If 10 years ago you'd told baby bartender Sarah that I'd be sitting down with you guys to do this podcast recording, I would be jumping out of my seat. I would not believe myself. So I really appreciate you all taking the time.
Great.
We are going to kick right in. We're going to go around. You guys introduce yourselves, say who you are, what you do. If your job title is not super self-explanatory, maybe explain what that means. And then as an icebreaker question, if you can let me know what your first ever role in hospitality was.
Okay.
Should
Great.
we start here and we'll work our way around?
I'm Ricardo Nava, and I have a bar in Mexico City called Bar Mauro, inspired by the aperitif Italian style cocktails, and also the name comes from my grandfather, who was the first person we remember he used to experience aperitif hour, Mauro. And I also have a role in Bacardi, experiential brand, head of brand experience for Bacardi Mexico. And my first role in the hospitality was 20 years ago as barista in my hometown in Veracruz, Mexico.
Cool.
Nonno Mauro, eh? I am Stefano, I'm the director of the Maybe Group and Maybe Festival, and that's very self-explanatory. That's why we're here, and thank you for everybody for coming. And my first role in hospitality was probably washing dishes in my dad's restaurant at the age of 4.
Oh,
Probably.
you started young.
Probably, yeah. That was the first.
Amazing. I'm Jacob Briars, so I'm the Global Advocacy Director for Bacardi, so lucky enough to work with Ricardo around the world, which means I look after all of our brand ambassadors, trade education programs, and so on. I've been 25 years in the industry, I think. So I started as a bartender, been a bar owner, brand ambassador, and now working on the brand side. I guess my very first job in the drinks industry when I was 12 years old, I started working at the local winery. And gave me a passion for that, just working on the bottling line and doing jobs around the winery. But my very first, I guess, job in hospitality was I worked in an absolutely terrible fake English pub in Wellington when I was at university, and it was great because the place was, the manager was very hard to work with, so people kept quitting. So I started on St. Patrick's Day, which is quite an introduction, then within 2 weeks I was a bar manager and given the job of cashing up the poker machines and so on. So that's how high our staff turnover was, and I was like, I like this responsibility. So ever since then I've been hooked.
Cool.
Ciao, Agostino Perrone. I'm the director of Mixology at the Connaught Hotel in London, and since 17 years. And also, I like to say that I'm an Italian ambassador for what is hospitality.
Okay.
around the world that represent our country, Italy. I started to work in a bar, in a very cool cafeteria in Lake Como. We were doing coffee in the morning, sambuca in the morning, aperitivos in the morning, and then it was the aperitif time, and the lunch and the aperitif before dinner, and then we were closing the bar. And that was the beginning, but then I did all sorts of different variety of bar, from nightclub to beach bar, all sorts of things. The hotel bar was the one that said, I will never do it. It's the one that hooked me for almost half of my life.
Oh.
So yeah, here we are. Thank you for organizing this one, and thank you, Stefano, for
I think
bringing us
somebody
over.
else needs to thank you for organizing this, and Sara. Thanks, Sara.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
Sarah
you,
organized
thank you,
everything.
Sarah.
Sarah is not
Sarah.
here, but she's
She is everywhere.
she's here everywhere.
Yeah.
She's and you should thanks now because you need to open a lunch if you want to do the real aperitivo bar. It just taught you something. Huh? It's not from 6, it's from 12 in Italy.
Now with the builder is 7:30 a.m.
All right, Jacob.
Yeah.
You are from Nelson.
I am,
right?
yes,
So
yeah.
I'm from Whangarei.
Mhm.
So when I first started working in hospitality, I was working at a bar in Auckland, which is 1885.
Yes.
And for me, there was nobody else on the world stage that had come from New Zealand. And you were like this enigma, I guess, like the famous person from New Zealand who came from like a small town.
The professor.
The
The
professor.
professor.
Yeah.
I still remember when the professor came to London
Yeah.
in the New Zealand house
Yes,
embassy.
yeah, that's right.
I did like few hours
Yeah.
training of 42 below vodka.
Amazing.
where
That's
we-
21 years ago.
yeah,
You've got an
where
amazing
we saw the
memory.
first time the Figeac.
Yeah, yeah.
Finally, we know what it is like. Now we understand the vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so
Yeah.
coming from small town New Zealand, you worked
Mhm.
your way through a couple of places in Wellington, and then you managed to get a role with 42 Below, right? And
Yeah,
as the vodka professor.
that's right.
What did you do differently that enabled you to get from like small town, like Nelson is a small town,
Sure.
small town New Zealand onto the world stage?
It's a great question. I think we all come from reasonably small towns.
Yeah.
Even Ricardo, even though he lives in the biggest city in the world now.
Yeah.
I think it's the miracle of the industry. So hospitality allows you to make your own way in the world. So if you're ambitious, if you will work hard, if you stay humble, you can do just about anything in this industry.
Yeah.
And so I don't think where you're from, obviously I have some advantages. Speaking English helps, but it's not always the be all and end all. But I think this industry just gives you incredible opportunities if you're prepared to take them. So I think that's part of it. Timing is also good. I think I was probably lucky to start just at the time when the industry was really starting to knit together globally. Probably played a small part in doing that by being one of the people that would travel around the world and tell people this is what Ago's doing in London, this is what you should be doing in Australia, and then taking those things back and forward. But yeah, no, I've always been very passionate about the industry, love the characters that are in it, and I've just been lucky enough to have people take a chance on me at certain times, I think.
And when you first started with 42 Below, what was your role?
Well, I kind of created a role for myself. So when I was first bartending, and I think this probably is a good life, I'm not sure this is a real life lesson, but you can go a very long way in this industry if you're prepared to work slightly harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so when I first started bartending, I fell in love with cocktails and spirits, and I realized nobody else was doing any education about them. So I went to the local kind of spirits supplier, the only place in town that had a good range. And I said, you do wine classes and you do whiskey tastings and you do beer tastings, but nobody's doing cocktails. Why don't you do some? And they said, sure, why don't you come back to us in a month with a program.
Yeah, cool.
So I eventually started teaching classes. I'd only been bartending about 18 months, but the great thing about when you start bartending is you have 100% confidence, and then it all goes slowly downhill from there. The more you learn, the more you realize you have to learn. And then I was very lucky that Jeff Ross, who was the founder, came to a class that I was giving on vodka, and he said, this is amazing. Would you take this around the world? So we created the character of the vodka professor, and we kind of created, I think there weren't too many people doing comparative tastings of like, try this product, try our brand against every other product. Now we'll teach you what cocktails we think. There was some education, but people weren't really doing a lot of it. So we just went out and did more. I think I must have trained about 15,000 bartenders in
Wow.
the first 2 years. Because we were doing at one point, I mean, the session that Ago came to in London, we did that 3 times a day, 30 bartenders a time, 4 days a week. You know, and then because we had so little money and we were a startup brand, so we couldn't afford to be in London for very long. So we would go to London and be like, how many people can we hit in a single week? And then we've got to get you out of there because it's too expensive to keep you there. So I think, yeah, that just, you know, taking those opportunities, working incredibly hard. But I was just very lucky that I had a great founder in Jeff Ross at 42 Below, who was like, you tell me what your job title should be, and you tell me, like, you design the education program and I'll back it and we'll go off and do it.
Yeah,
So-
but that all comes out of you going out of your way to put yourself out there and stuff.
Sure,
take
yeah,
the
yeah.
classes in the first place, right?
Yes, yeah. So I think, and then going off and realizing I frantically had to research about a topic that I didn't know about, and you know, and remember, very little of this information was around at that point. So it really meant reading books rather than, there was no Chat GPT and no websites.
Oh, yeah, it
It
was
was
like,
visiting, creating your knowledge by experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And reading books
Yeah.
and trust what
Yeah.
was in these books.
Yeah.
so which day of the week, was it a Monday or a Tuesday, where you invented the role of brand ambassador for the rest of the world?
Well, I need to
remember?
be clear. Like, there were some whiskey brand ambassadors, and then I think there were Cognac had some brand ambassadors, and then there were a few people like Simon Ford and a few others who were also, we were all starting around the same time. Colin Asari-Appiah, who's now at Bacardi, you know, so there were some people who were all realizing that this was a great way to grow brands. Scotch whiskey did it first, I think. And well, actually, Bacardi rum did it first. They had an ambassador in Cuba called Papi Valiente, who became so famous that people could send a postcard to Senor Havana, Cuba, and the post officeman would get it to him. So, you know, that's a level of fame. Like, that's a really classic old Bacardi story of, you know, this person whose job was to pick you up at the airport and take you to the Bacardi office and give you a daiquiri and then drop you at your hotel.
Wow.
Which is not probably a travel strategy people would employ these days. But yeah, no, but the idea was bubbling around. I was just very lucky, I think, that we realized that nobody else was going to tell the story of a brand from New Zealand. So we had to go and do it ourselves. Nobody was waiting for a New Zealand vodka or a vodka university. So if we wanted that to happen, we had to go out and build it.
And also, Jacob went out a lot to visit bars in London. That's why it was expensive for the brand to keep it away.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to do three classes a day for 4 days of the week, and then tried to hit 5 bars each night afterwards, so that we could go to, you know, Ago, who at that point was at a place called Dusk, which is way down in southwest London. So it's like, fuck. Now we have to go and visit him because it's like, this is going to take 30 pounds, this taxi ride.
I think we were at the bar outside New Zealand. We're using most 42 below Fijoa than everybody else put together in the world.
Incredible. So actually, you know, we should have sent him a check. But I mean, I think, you know, and it's for training, you need to give these people, you know, they give up their time to come to a class. And I think it's a really great investment. Doesn't matter where you are in the industry, you need to go to these classes, and you should come tomorrow to the Maybe Festival as well, because you can never learn less, as Angus Winchester likes to say. But then in turn, the brands and the brand ambassadors have to go and pay that time back. So when Ago came to visit, it was like, well, how many times I went to see Ago every time I went to London to say thanks for the support. And then that gets passed on to the guests. You know, the brands, bartenders can be in love with a very small number of brands that they truly care about, and then they can pass, they are the people who make their guests fall in love with those brands too, and that's how you grow.
We are the portavoce, we say, no? The brand is on the shelf, that needs to communicate with the bartender communicate to the guest, the consumer. So we have a very, very pivotal role in the industry.
Yeah, completely.
Ago, you were in Lake Como, right? And you are probably the opposite end of the spectrum. So coming from New Zealand, you're from like the end of the world, the end of the planet, whereas you're on the opposite side where you've got like a huge amount of population. What did you do earlier on in your career to like stand out from everybody else? Because obviously you've become quite a well-known name in the industry now.
I think we have a lot of similarity, working hard, really believe, sometimes you don't set yourself objective. I want to be the best bartender in the world. I say, no, I want to go and discover. I want to fulfill myself. But also the time when I started in Como, we got a delivery for lime maybe 1 day a week. All the rest was daiquiri and caipirinha with a lemon.
Okay.
So I come from the time, long time ago, 1999, where learning Sex on the Beach and Long Island Stay, you were excited about it, and then because the bartender told you the story, and then you were going to study the history of this cocktail somehow in 2 or 3 cocktail books that were around, and then you start to learn the history of whiskey and provenience. So your imagination is always going. You're dreaming. You're dreaming to go and visit the places, experience by yourself. And the personal experience in person, it was really create you, will really fill you up. Now we are very lucky. We can travel everywhere. You can meet people. You can kind of rely on what you see or what people told you. And then it feels like you already met this person or saw this bar. But somehow, I always go to school, somehow, even when I go into new places, I do very little research first. I like to blend, even as a tourist, I like to blend in with the local. I like to blend in with the culture and discover new facets of the same places, because everybody talk about a bar, a bartender in certain manners, but there is always other side.
Did you ever imagine that bartending would take you to like traveling around the world?
No,
And the role?
I've always been a dreamer.
Yeah.
To be honest, lots of people know I'm photography passionate massively, and actually I started to work in a bar because I wanted to pay my study of photography.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer. So always.
Cool.
And now I realized after how many years, how many decades, and I'm fulfilling my dreams.
Yeah, cool.
So it doesn't matter what is the dream, if you pursue it, if you go for it, doesn't happen today, maybe it doesn't happen tomorrow, maybe it's happening, you don't realize. But look at your own self, your own path, your own journey. I think it's very
really
important.
see you out there on safari working for National Geographic in your double-breasted suit.
Every
hunting
Frasco
giraffes.
Martini.
The wildlife of bars.
Yeah.
How many years until you started to see success in bartending?
I think always be very passionate. And
I
very,
was 10 when he was famous.
No, I think that London was a game changer.
Yeah.
I came to London, I opened a bar without speaking English. And we were doing the delivery at night on the phone, not on the computer. So I thought I learned how to master the frustration.
Yeah.
To receive what you didn't order, but you order it,
Yeah.
And I think in success, you realize that you have success when when you start to feel happy, you start to feel that you're building a life for yourself. You have friends around you have friends around the world. I think then being famous is all relative, depends what you want to do with the fame.
Yeah, totally.
Now, if you want to be useful for the next generation coming, if you want to be something for yourself, or just you think to be famous is being recognized and be proud somehow of yourself.
I think there's this thing in the industry at the moment where there's a lot of like young bartenders that think that you should be traveling from the outset, right? And so I think it's really interesting to like hear from people who are now at the stage that you are now, or at the stage that any of you guys are at, like how long it actually took you to get to the point where you do get to go traveling, or you do get to go and have all these experiences, because it shouldn't, not that it shouldn't be, but it's not.
Traveling is easier now compared
Yeah.
to 20 years ago.
Totally,
So you
yeah.
should go traveling.
Yeah.
If it's a business-related trip, someone invites you, just go on holiday. Be curious yourself. Don't expect that the brands call you to visit the distillery and do the bar tour. We backpack ourselves. We went to a new town. We went to visit new countries to see where this classic cocktail was invented. And maybe the expectation was met and was beyond, or sometimes was under the feet. But even if it was a bad experience, we won because we've been to the place. We were excited. No,
But
I
you
think
were
this sense of
sending yourself at that time, like you were funding the trip yourself.
of course.
Yeah. I think you have to do a lot
That's-
of that first.
A lot of that
Yeah.
first. I agree. The people think, you guys always go to Tales of the Cocktail. Yeah, but the first few times I pay myself to go to Tales of the Cocktail.
Invest in yourself
Yeah.
is the best
Yes.
gift you can give to yourself for a long term.
Yeah.
And maybe you you don't end up in hospitality in a few years, but you're a better person for sure. Hospitality is 360 degrees. You can open your own bar, you can open a company, you can still work for brands, you can do what I do. It doesn't matter. It's still within the 360 degrees of hospitality. It has a starting point, and all of us have a different starting point, but there are some common denominator that keep us aligned.
Also, investing in your own education is a very strong way to prove that you should be worth investing in, whether you're, you know, by your owner or by a brand or any of these sorts of things. Like there's very few people that can be like sort of Jack McGarry, you know, the merchant who at the age of 18 are very clearly going to be like one of the best operators in the world. Most people need to show that they're prepared to invest in themselves. And even he had started at 15. So like, you know, so when I think you probably realistically 3 to 4 years of investing in yourself before anyone else will is what bartenders should be thinking about.
Well, investing in yourself is traveling, creating your own network. But I think that you as well, I paid my first courses of presentation skills. How to be able to deliver a training better. When I start to travel a little bit to do consultancy, to work for brands. And then you realize that those skills, it is not only for what you need to do when you're not behind the bar, but actually become part of your life. I always say, even when you go to the post office, you can change someone's day. Like the old ladies, grumpy in Italy. They never look at you. They never look at you. But if you're the bartender soul, you give them a couple of good words. You ask them, "How are you?" And they end up smiling at you. And then after you go back, they always give you the fast track. But it's true. I think that
True story.
Ricardo, congratulations on opening your bar.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
Thank you so much.
beautiful bar.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about your bar and the ethos behind your drinks, what you're doing? Just a little bit more of a deep dive into like your style of service.
In the bar.
Yeah, in your bar.
Yeah, basically, Mauro was the first time my brother and me has this conversation was in Singapore for the World's 50 Best Bars 2023. And I remember we were speaking about to open a place where people can feel at home, no? Because with all this trend of new openings and a lot of places trying to do something different, most of them, from my perspective, is they are very worried about the quality of drinks, but sometimes they are forgetting the experience, you know, how the people make you feel. And this is something that I learned from maybe some of my mentors, Benja Padron, Jose Luis, people from Limantour, because I work in Limantour for 7 years. So what I understood is the people sometimes want to have a place where they can feel at home, but they can come back maybe once a week, because when I started to work in Limantour was a neighborhood bar. So the idea was to open a neighborhood bar, with good drinks, good quality of music, and the lightings also, like taking care of all the experience of the place. And I always remember this because speaking with Stefano, he explained me the concept of El Primo Sanchez when he went to Mexico. And it's like, you need to take care of every detail, not only the drinks, because at the end, I think most of the bartenders know how to make good drinks, but how you make feel unforgettable the moment, not only because of the drink, also because of the experience, and how at the end is people serving to more people. So this is what we want to do, and the inspiration of my grandfather, because he was like a bombi band and very bohemian, and the most important thing is he really enjoys the party and to have people at home, but he never he never got drunk. No, I don't remember him drunk. So that was the
Or sober. We don't know. Or sober.
not even-
That's what I say about my own dad. Don't worry. I remember him drunk.
and that was the reason, because that was the main inspiration for our bar. And we are very happy because we found the designers, the architecture studio, and the brand agency, the marketing agency, who I think the three of us, or the three parts, my brother and me, the design and the brand design and the marketing and the architecture, like we connect very well. And I feel like my brother and me created the place of our dreams.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good job.
Is there anything that you wish you knew before you started?
Oof.
The fastest everyone probably.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in different openings, but it's very, very different when it's your own place. Yeah, it's like most of the times it was pretty easy to complain with the owner, or like, hey, why the chairs are of this way and not, I was complaining all the time. Now I have to complain with myself. And like, I'm a really pain in the ass.
How was the opening night?
The opening night?
Smooth?
It was very, we received the place ready to open 2 days before of the opening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we are paying more rent, and we need to open when the architects gave us the place. And literally, they came with the place ready to operate, but also with a few details to fix. And when they gave us the local to operate, we received the spirits delivery next day. We cleaned everything, and that was on Wednesday, and we opened on Friday night.
Man.
Wow.
Big night to open.
All friends and family. My mother was there because my Mauro was my how do you call mother's
Dad.
the
Dad of your mom.
Yes, and it was like, oh, finally we open. Okay, now the real adventure just started now.
And is your brother working in the venue as well?
Yes, my brother is also bartender.
So cool.
He was bar manager in Limantour for 7 years also. And when he decided to open the place, he quit from Limantour in February last year, and we started to create and develop all the program and all the ideas. So we were working since February until October last year.
Amazing. I don't know too many siblings working together. That's awesome.
I know a few.
Yeah?
Yeah, and that was very funny for us and interesting, because at the beginning, in our mind, our first guest bartendings, our wish was to have like a Schofield's Brothers, or also
Scofield brother.
Scofield Brothers and the guys from Three Sheets, the Vennings.
Yeah.
So we know a lot of siblings who work together in the bar, or they are both bartenders, but work together is also difficult.
Yeah. Is there anything about the industry's current path, because there's a lot happening in the industry at the moment, that excites you or concerns you?
No, actually, I feel like all the time I feel a big excitement because of the industry, and this is like all the industries at the end. No, most of the times I remember, when I start to work with the brands, one of my commitments was like to share with the people who can't travel what I learned of every travel, no, like every trip. So the only one thing that sometimes I concern is like the brands. Sometimes they pay a lot of money to bring people to share the knowledge and with all the bartenders within the industry. And I remember at some point people only was there for the selfie and to post maybe an Instagram story, but no one is like, so a few people is learning and taking notes and bringing all this information to their bars, no? So that was my only concern, because I remember when I the first time I went to see to Eric Loring's in Mexico City, I was like, oh my God. I was doing an interview like, why you do this and why you put your setup like this and that. And I think that's what people sometimes need to do again, no? Like being curious.
Totally. Yeah. Stefano, you have hospitality in your blood, right? You're from a hospital family.
Yes.
Yeah. Working. I did not know that you were working at 4 years old.
Probably, very young.
Yeah. Impressive.
Yeah, my dad had restaurant, so I grew up in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I used to sleep on the table of the restaurant, really, because
Oh, that's going to be our child.
Yeah.
Why did you stay in hospitality?
Because I was in there, and when you think you're good at something, you're like, let me stay here. I want to try something else. I love people.
Yeah.
I have because I grew up in a touristy area of Italy, and I noticed that when people were coming out at night, there was a lot of Americans, a lot of New Zealander, Australian. I had the need of make them feel good. Mm-hmm. If nobody was talking to that table or to that person, I was standing up and entertaining people. I had this need of making people feel good. I can't. That's why I move all the time. If I don't feel people feel comfortable, I have this extra need of making everybody feel comfortable. Also, I like attention, which helps. But and I started working my family bar in Vernazza when I was 14 in '98 during the World Cup. Mm-hmm. My first shift was my cousin told me go take some tables order, and I literally take them all, and I went back with a notepad with everyone's order. And she told me, not everybody. I said, that's what you told me. Very efficient, Yeah. And then I love bartending. And then my story is weird because I met a friend of ours, Naren, who used to travel to Cinque Terre. And he's telling me about cocktail culture in Australia. He brought me this magazine. And I go like, people doing cocktails, That's crazy. I knew Ago in London. There was some article about people moving to London to learn about cocktails. And then Australia. So I was fascinated, curious. And I started to travel. And my first travel was my ticket to London, Then was my ticket to Australia. Then was my ticket to New York.
Did you speak English when you moved here?
I was very lucky because I speak English since I'm 14. Maybe nobody can tell because I still have the same accent. Me and Ago, we are very similar in that. We don't fake our accent. We keep it very... But
it's part of
the
character.
The character. But I speak English since I'm 14. So in fact, when I moved to Australia to work, I was never a barback. Actually, it's a job I've never done. I've always been a bartender because I was speaking English, and the guy didn't want to put me to do the glasses because I could talk to people, Mm-hmm. So my first job was always, I already started doing the bartend, and I was very bad compared to the good bartender. He was a guy from Rome. I used to work with a guy from, the speakeasy in Rome, and the Jerry Thomas guy. Yeah. He knew every cocktail in the planet. He knew everything. He didn't speak a word of English. So I used to bartend and say, Cree, what's in the Boulevardier? And he would say, 30, 20, 50. And he was so upset with me. He was like, look at you, you know nothing, and you're bartending, and I'm your barback. So I actually learned a lot from him. Yeah. But I had, so it was my real life specs. He would yell at me, but
And now you have a fluctuating amount of venues all the time.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
Sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yeah, a huge amount of staff, and then you've also got like the Maybe Festival. You have kids.
Yeah.
You have so much going on. Has there ever been like a point in time where you felt like it's a bit overwhelming?
The main problem for everybody. So if you fix your home, if your home is a good place, everything else is fine. Mm-hmm. So I'm lucky that in my home, it's okay. Everything is good. My wife is a good, strong woman. She takes care of us, the family, whatever. So when I leave home, I don't have any worry, which is very important. What I say, I'm also, a psychopath probably. At home, I like to have the house clean and everything. If the house is in order, then my life out of the house is in order. There is moments where you feel overwhelmed, but the sense of having the house taken care of, and then you can go out in the world and do what I do or what we all do, it's good. And then I'm super, super lucky because my team is unbelievable. Like these guys are like, they would die. If we were in a battlefield, they would die for it. They believe in something that I don't know what it is, but they really push hard every day. And they tell me what to do, and I listen to them, especially Sarah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I think we should go a little bit more into some fun story time. I mean, comps have changed a lot since 42 Below, and that was probably the first comp that ever put New Zealand on the map, but also competitions on the map as well. Do you want to speak a little bit about?
Yeah, so, well, this is now, we're talking 21 years ago, so there's probably people who are downloading this podcast who probably never heard of 42 Below or the Cocktail World Cup or possibly even New Zealand. So there were cocktail competitions, and there have been all the way back to the 1870s. I mean, Martini Grand Prix, which has been running in Italy for 50 plus years, and the International Bartender Association, but they were very traditional about kind of creating standardization of the craft more and consistency and standards. So brands hadn't really done a cocktail competition in that same way to kind of get attention. So 42 Below, obviously a brand from New Zealand. We were very small, we were new to the world, and we needed to get on the map. Nobody needed a vodka from New Zealand in their bar. Ago had 50 vodkas already. He didn't need one from the other side of the world. Because back in 2000...
It was an excuse to get you back to London.
In 2004, there were 50 vodkas on the back bar, just as there's 50 tequilas today. So we threw this cocktail competition, and we just said, the main aim here is to make bartenders fall in love with this brand, and then they will tell other people about it, and that will help us grow. And maybe we'll get some press, and we'll do some crazy stuff. And all anybody really knew about New Zealand was it was the home of extreme sports. So everything we did had to be a crazy stunt. So we flew, at that point, I think 23 bartenders came down to New Zealand, and they had to make cocktails while bungee jumping. We took them on jet boats, and then we sort of, none of it had quite got we had a couple of journalists there, and they were like, this is cool, but I really thought New Zealanders would do something else, more crazy. So we were like, okay, well, we'll get everyone out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we'll hang them from helicopters, and then we'll take the helicopters 1,500 meters into the air, and they make a cocktail while they do that. Yeah. So that's what we did on the very last day. And we were just kind of making stuff up as we went, right? Because fortunately there was no social media. Facebook wasn't around then. And people were just ready to also do crazy stuff, because they were like, oh, if I do something crazy here at this crazy cocktail competition, I will also become famous as a bartender. And it was probably a little too risky, to be honest. I mean, we had some people who, just got out of I was in the helicopter. One of the bartenders was just hanging out of the helicopter, a Canadian bartender who pulled out a saber. And I was like, why have you even brought this to New Zealand? And took the top off a bottle of champagne while hanging out of the chopper. And I have a photo that actually shows the top going kind of just missing the rotor blades. So that would have been the first and last cocktail competition probably. And so, now things are much more tame, but I think, what it did show, it showed bartenders all over the world, even if they didn't even know what 42 Below was and didn't want to enter competitions. They were like, if I stick to bartending, I can do something like this. Maybe not go to New Zealand, maybe it's go to Mexico, maybe it's go to London. But, I think it broadened people's minds that these sorts of things were available to them in the industry if they worked hard and, kind of tried their hand at things.
Health and safety now is much different.
Security
we cannot, despite social media and things, but I think even without the social media nowadays, this kind of activities that are be forbidden. But it's a way how to, if I can take over a little bit, is a way how you have something, but you need to push the boundaries, no? Yeah. If you don't push the boundaries, you don't grow. Of course, you push the boundaries. In a crazy day, but the time was cool, was good.
Coolest
comp
no? Ever. I'm asking 6 times to bring it back.
Now there is still a way to push the boundaries, being cool, being different, being respectful as well for what our profession is. Because they said you didn't misrespect the profession, which is crazy. Yeah. No? And nowadays with so much control on everything, it's almost more difficult to be creative in the sense. There's a lot of copy and paste in many things.
But I think, you say it's a pity that those, cocktail competitions go in and out of fashion when the brand needs it. It's not always right for, certain brands, but there are competitions and other things that you can get involved with. So I guess I always turn that back to bartenders and say, yes, that particular competition might have finished, but you know there are other things you could be doing. Are you entering these? It's like, oh, I don't know if I'd win, or it feels like a lot of work. It's like, well, I mean, Bacardi Legacy, which Ricardo and I were involved in, and Ago was the first ever champion, that took months of practice and refinement for people to win. And it was like, do you want to spend months getting better at your job, or you don't? It's like, yeah, it feels like it'd be quite hard to win. And it's like, yes, that's the point. But the point is that everyone that's won that competition has gone on to do extraordinary things because they learned so much more about what was possible for them. So whether it's a local cocktail competition that's running, or it's something you have to do online, or, you know, I guess my advice always to bartenders is go and enter it, even if it doesn't.
Do you think it's more dangerous to be upside down in a chopper in New Zealand or on a donkey with Salvatore in the Amalfi Coast?
Yeah. Probably on a donkey with Salvatore, but you never know.
That's extreme sport. Consider extreme sport in the Amalfi Coast. So
I was on a donkey.
it's another cocktail competition.
Another story that's hard to tell. I mean, all of these things, there are always opportunities and I guess, you know, bartenders that take the opportunities and put the effort in will usually find more opportunities come their way. So, I mean, Eric Lawrence, who you know worked with Ago at the Savoy, I mean, he sent himself to Japan, paid for himself to go through classes, turned up in London, sleeping in like, you know, kind of hostels to kind of, you know, so there's all these great stories of, you know, the people who put the work in. Naren, when he went to visit you, I think he slept on the beach to save money. It's a little easier to do maybe in their Cinque Terre than maybe like London in November, but
maybe that, yeah.
I think there is maybe because we take our job seriously, but sometimes we don't take ourselves too seriously. That's why you manage to go out of the rail. Yeah. If you take yourself too seriously and you take your job too seriously, it's a little bit boring. You're never gonna get to do something which is unique to you.
True story.
Yeah.
All right. Most that you've ever been in the weeds. Anything popping to mind for anyone?
In the weeds,
the weeds being like in the shit.
Most haven't been in the shits.
Yeah.
Oof. I tell you when. So there was the day I've opened maybe Frank, I remember, or the week I've opened maybe Frank. I was expecting, you know, people to come and start see what I did. And one of the person I was very, you know, I really wanted to come. There is 3 people I really want to come to my bar. Jacob Briars, Agostino, Neron at the time, Neron Young. And I say, when these 3 people come, my place has to be perfect. So I believe that one of the week that I knew he was coming in, my internet shut down. So I couldn't take order and nothing. And I'm like, fuck. I said, can tonight happen this to me, you know? So I remember I lie down in the floor in the back like this. And I start to do the snowman, you know, when you do the angel in the snow, there's no angel. Just like say, please make these things work again. Because I was busy the place as well. But I really need to be calm to have this place that, you know, try to, you know, finally showcase. That was the time I was in the shit. Jacob doesn't know, but I remember. Because when he probably came, everything was perfect there.
Yeah, it's the old, what do you call it? The duck theory from TGI Friday. Behind the scenes, below the water, there was panic, but above the water.
But that was a panic moment because, you know, you're really waiting for some people because Australia is very far. So when you finally can showcase something to someone who's used to be in bar in New York, London, you go like, let me show you what we can do here, even though it was like a little, I remember, that was the shit. Every other day, no, we just call it 6 to 7, don't worry.
Yeah. Australia is so far away that they only had 1 bottle of Blue Curacao. So they were sending it round in a taxi to each venue just before I would get there.
Actually, we're putting you in a taxi with you. You didn't know. I got this bag from the other bar.
Is that when they were invented? How you call them?
The corpse reviver?
No.
The boomerang. The boomerang. Yeah. The boomerang.
The boomerang were invented to impress a brand ambassador with his own product.
Anybody else?
I think been a difficult situation many times. Yeah. It's still happening, especially when you work in a hotel. I think when James Bond come in the bar and sit down, you start to freak out.
Which James Bond?
Pierce Brosnan, one of the coolest, in my opinion. So we start to freak out a little bit. And then what he does, he asks for a martini cocktail. I'm gonna tell him that we stir and not shake it. So everybody, no, what do you do? What we do? I said, okay, guys, just let's do it. So it was myself, I took the trolley, went to him. You remember the grumpy lady in the post office?
Yeah.
I had to use the technique. Say, Mr. Brosnan, I know we don't want to change history, but maybe you want to try our version, you know? We stir it, we don't shake it, and then explain that we do with the bitter, to personalize, It was I was sweating. I was sweating cold, because you're emotional because you're making a drink for James Bond. Plus, you need to tell him they cannot have the shaken martinis. It's a very little thing, but for a bartender, it's a big thing. And then, since the day when he come back to London and I come to the Connaught bar, he asked everybody at his table to pause the conversation because he wants them to be part of the martini experience.
Amazing.
That's cool.
You know, the same thing happens when you walk into other people's bars. When you go through a martini, it's like, oh, it's Ago from the Connaught. Oh no.
Once I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
I was with Gabi. We went there was a restaurant festival. It was judge a competition. You're yourself when you go out. You are not the person, the people, they see who you are, no? Walk in the place, no, Agostino, lovely to welcome you here. This is the restaurant, We also do some cocktails. I said, lovely. You know what? I feel like having a martini today.
Oh, way to put the pressure on.
The guy, but he realized, just Gabi told me after, I said, why are you asking me martini? I said, because I want a martini. You could hear glasses breaking. The guy was sweating.
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Why stay so long to make a martini? I didn't realize that, but yeah.
That's a funny story. That's the same of the duck. You know what's happening in the back.
Totally.
He arrives.
And the martini was good eventually. Right? You know. He learned a lesson to don't freak out, probably.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to do
Cool.
final thing, and then we're
Okay.
gonna finish up. So I have some little whiteboards for you.
This
So
is
you
fun.
can't see each other's answers.
Okay.
And then- All right, so these are just like quick fire questions. You're going to write down your answer, and then we'll...
Oh, okay, right.
So trend you want to see more of?
More off.
Yeah,
Trend.
a trend you want to see more of, or it doesn't need to be a trend. It's something you want to see more of. in
Afuera, no?
hospitality.
Fuera del bar, cioè in the bar
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
Then I want to
Keep
see,
it relevant.
see more. Okay.
All right. Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of something, not writing too many things that's controversial.
I write down in Spanish, sorry.
More of, yeah. Less is easier.
All right. Let's share.
I'm waiting.
Spin it around.
Oh,
Vai.
What do we got? More community, being real.
More
more drinks and more aperitivi.
I was writing small, I thought was...
Okay, yeah. Be fun with knowledge. That's a good one.
The next one I'm going to write very small.
What is being fun with knowledge? What are you getting at?
Entertain people,
Yeah, okay.
but use the knowledge as well. So don't be too serious and don't be a clown.
The balance.
Be confident in what you do because you know what to do it. And once you're confident, you can use more your personality.
Yeah.
So it's the art of connecting people, entertaining. It's about them, it's not about you.
Yeah, that's very interesting because now it's like the bartender want to show what he knows, and sometimes we are not listening to the client.
No, but
to the
you
guest.
don't know who is in front of you when you could connect them as well.
Also.
Colin Field, the best connector in the entire world. When he was at the Hemingway bar, I met the first ballerina of the Royal Opera House
amazing.
in Paris. I met the film producer, everything. Bro, he didn't make a drink in half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he
yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah,
speaking
yeah.
to people, connecting
That
people.
used to be Durelli by the end of his time as well. He was
That's
never
why
making
drink is so
drinks.
expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you do one every 5 minutes, and that's enough.
Trend you want to see less of?
Less of.
Oof. I don't want to hurt feelings of someone.
We're all tough.
Let's roto up. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I don't.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean,
Rottwell.
Yeah.
copy and paste. I mean, it'd be more
Passione del vinyl bar. I'm gonna stop liking
for
vinyl.
your style of your bar,
Yeah.
or for the bar that you work for.
Totally. Final bar.
I'm gonna open one for sure.
How you
But
gonna
there's,
call
but
it?
there's too many.
He'll call it cassette. And, then
Cassette.
and every time you can't get a drink because every bartender has got a pencil and is winding the tape back. Yeah.
It'd be great. You know it's gonna happen. We don't know when, but you know it's gonna happen.
Only drinks from the 80s and cassette
The
tape.
cassette.
Cassette.
Mixtape.
Cassette bar is a cool,
Yeah, yeah,
is a
yeah.
cool name,
CD.
actually.
Yeah.
Cassette.
Come like this.
Yeah.
What is your guilty pleasure cocktail?
Guilty pleasure cocktail. Yeah, I know what it is. I already know.
Something which is no norma. Cannot be a Negroni.
That's not a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, that's why.
Oh, me
Ah,
too.
baby.
Yeah. And I have to
But-
say, I actually
but
have to
that's what-
credit.
what is
A cocktail
Yeah.
that is my guilty pleasure. I thought something inside the cocktail.
Ah,
Ok, my guilty pleasure cocktail. Oh, sì, aspetta, Qual è il mio guilty pleasure?
ah.
When I'm in holiday, I
Oh,
always,
yes.
I always order a
great,
mojito.
great
You
choice.
guys have both got like holiday cocktails.
Yeah.
I know, because that's what I order when I'm in holiday.
That's a
I
beautiful
think the
drink.
same.
Yeah.
Pina colada.
Yeah,
Jacob.
I'm around probably pina colada as well. Yeah.
So I used to hate the drink, and then I actually went to see Argo when he was at this wonderful bar, which sadly not around anymore, called Montgomery Place. Went with Nick Van Thiel, who's now runs the music for Merivale Group here in Sydney. And you had like, I think, a blend of 3 rums and like fresh pineapple. And I don't think I'd ever seen anybody care about. So we were obviously all caring very, very much about like Fino martinis and how to make what's the right spec for Negronis. But I think you were the first person I'd ever seen like take a drink that had a terrible reputation and re-engineer it with better and better and better ingredients. So I think, obviously pina colada is not really a guilty pleasure anymore. I think bartenders order it with quite a bit of pride. But yeah, it was the first time I'd ever seen anyone take that drink very, very seriously in a long time.
Was a group of bartenders when we opened, they came, look at me, shame on you.
Yeah.
You have pina colada in the menu. I said, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
now
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And slashes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the classic pina colada with the cream and milk and red cherry on the top.
Yeah.
And in the beach. You need to be in the beach.
Yeah, I guess, but it's a wonderful. Well, this was like a cold, wet day in London, so
It can be a holiday cocktail
Yeah.
or make you feel like you're traveling. No?
Exactly.
Sometimes without being so sophisticated into things and too many storytelling that might be too complicated.
What is in your opinion, the most overrated cocktail ingredient?
The most overrated.
Or overused, overrated.
Now or in the history? Or...
Up to you.
The most overrated cocktail ingredient. Is there a question about bubbles later or no?
Blue Curacao.
About bubbles.
Blue Curacao.
Yeah. Underrated, I think you mean.
No, the most overrated cocktail ingredient. Everybody, I know which one you mean, okay? Then everybody's.
I got mine.
You say overrated?
What?
Yeah.
Because the category is going loopy.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
That's why I say this.
Yeah.
Say vermouth.
Yeah.
No. There are too many brands out there now. They're trying to be
No, but I was gonna say the same, but with agave.
sophisticated and
Yeah.
Because I was gonna write agave, but in all of it, because there's too many. Like I get proposed a new agave product a week probably, which is a lot, and a new celebrity. Even yesterday, another guy said, "I made the tequila." Really? Who makes it?
drink it.
Yeah.
Like we're very loyal to some of these original brands that we discover in Mexico, and we love them. But there's too many now.
I mean, for those, I have tried some atrocious I will not name any names, but
No, you
atrocious
can't.
vermouths in the last couple of years.
It's an interesting one because obviously when Ago and I started, I would probably say vermouth was the most underrated ingredient.
We had
in
Martini Rosso
yeah.
in London, Martini Dry, Nolly Pro Dry. I was buying from Italy Antica Formula.
Imagine that.
But I think so. Things obviously become cyclical, but I think often, I mean, vermouth is an interesting one because obviously, you know, it had almost been taken out of lots of drinks. So Negronis were like 3-1 instead of equal parts. Manhattans and martinis had almost no vermouth in them. So, and then you realize with vermouth in them that they become, you know, transformative drinks. I don't know. For me, I would probably say, I don't actually mean this specifically to Amari, but the temptation for every bartender to put one too many ingredients into drinks and to try and push the flavor to 11. And when I think actually like pulling it back would be a very good idea. So it's really a stand-in for like bartenders actually adding that one extra ingredient that pushes the drink too far. So you can only ever drink one of them.
Yeah.
I think is, yeah.
Venue that everybody needs to visit once, and obviously it can't be your own venue.
Pardon?
In the world,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna use anybody on this table.
If you were gonna like recommend someone that there's this bar that you went to one time and everyone should visit this bar, yeah, let's just take
The world is a
table
big
off.
place.
Yeah. And we can't use any of the
No,
examples
I
here.
always say.
My bar is still open or...
Yeah, still open.
Okay, because otherwise it's hard to visit. So I can go first if you like.
Why go?
So I would say Tommy's Mexican restaurant in San Francisco.
Bastard.
Sorry. For a couple of reasons. One, it shows like, you know, they don't have an ice program or a glassware program. In fact, they make their drinks in a plastic jug. But I think
blender jug.
Yeah, blended jug.
But they use it as
Yeah, totally. So
mixer.
all of the things that we think sometimes we put too much importance into, they don't truck with at all. Family-owned restaurant, so it's got great vibes. But I think it just shows the transformative power of a bartender and a bar team to literally change an entire category. So obviously Mexico has done an amazing job of protecting its own indigenous spirits as well. But in terms of promoting, you know, 100% agave tequila to the world, Julio Bermejo and the team there have generated hundreds of billions of dollars for bartenders and brands all over the world. So I would say like everyone needs to go there at least once to fall in love with tequila and with agave.
The Tommy's Margarita
Yeah.
was invented.
Yeah, exactly.
When I tell to my guest,
Yeah.
you know Tommy's Margarita? Yes. He's a friend of mine.
Ah,
Great story to share.
Yeah.
it's great.
But
When he was here for the festival, everybody wanted to interview him because he invented the cocktail.
Yeah. So
Modern classic. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
human being.
Anybody else got one?
Yeah, I have something which is London-based, is very much relevant now. It's a place that really respect the classic cocktail in the past, especially era of Sasha Petraschi and De Groff. They work a lot on, to finesse in the technique of the process, but without showing it off, because the important was they put in front of the guest and the atmosphere which is around. Is Satan Whisker.
yes. Yeah. Wonderful.
And they're here now.
Big respect
Yeah.
for them, yeah.
Tomorrow night.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Kevin and I were the same generation. You were with Kevin as well. in
No,
Match?
maybe no. But yeah, they're here. I'm excited for them. They're
Yeah.
popping up tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the classic bars in New Orleans.
Bravo.
Yeah.
We have
Beautiful.
like, I have the chance to visit the Tujac,
Tujac.
Yeah.
Tujac.
yeah, and the smell, the aroma of the place, it smells like history. So many years have passed there. Maybe for me, one of the classic bars in New Orleans.
Yeah, the mood in your...
I'm gonna do one of Italian fellows. I'm gonna do Bar Leone. Doesn't do any publicity, but Bar became famous for a focaccia. This cocktail era is pretty amazing, and it says a lot about it just recreates. I think for people like me and Ago, they grew up in the 80s, and we really like the culture. It's fun to go in a place like that. There is a lot of the culture. Plus, it's in Hong Kong, which is super weird, but it doesn't need more publicity. But Bar Leone is definitely one of these bars you have to watch now. They do a good job.
Which city has delivered you the most legendary hangover?
New Orleans.
Yeah, probably it's too many of us all together there.
Beijing.
Beijing.
Yeah, by drinking baijiu.
Ooh,
It's
that's not Congo.
yeah.
It's called torture.
Yeah.
It's like
It's probably the only time I've ever. It's pre-Olympics. There was a lot of like enthusiasm and excitement in Beijing, and then our Chinese distributor took us out for a kind of traditional meal, a traditional feast, and but he didn't realize that it was vegetarian. There aren't many vegetarian restaurants, so the only one that you can find, they're all Buddhist restaurants, and so they have no alcohol, any of these sorts of things. So he's like drinking and toasting with these beers, and about halfway through the dinner, he says, these beers do nothing. And so he literally walked out the door and bought some like kind of convenience store baijiu and starts handing us to it in the taxi as in we've got to catch up. The next morning, it was the only time I think I've ever been in an airport and sworn, just get through this flight, I will never drink again. That's probably the I think your body gets used to certain different kind of ways of drinking and intensity, and just the speed of the toasting and a totally different spirit. The body wasn't prepared. So nothing to do with Beijing, which has amazing bartenders themselves, but it's more to do with the speed at which our distributor wanted to catch up.
Maybe for me, any city out of Mexico City, because hangover in Mexico City, you always have chilaquiles or something very spicy. You can like revival.
Like in Mexico City, you have a reputation. They cannot see you hangover. Yeah.
But hangover in London is like, what can I have the next day to cure the hangover? And the same happened in every city out of Mexico City for me.
And then the last question I ask everybody is, if you are to leave a legacy in hospitality, what do you want that legacy to be? Big question.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everybody who goes after me, wherever they make bar, it's something what I was saying before, like where you have where you're good bars or where you have a good time. Like I really wanna. It's my challenge for this, because I grew up in an area where people were taking themselves so seriously, and then there were some people making great drinks and having a good time. Mm-hmm. I don't think you need to be loud. You need to be there is a very fine line, but I would like that people can walk this fine line and have this live amazing experience. And there is so many people who are doing this around the world now.
Yeah,
but I would love to be responsible for a little part of that.
I think you already are.
Well,
so very, very influential. The attitude that you bring in all of your venues, people try to copy it and bottle it. So
yeah. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. We were like, we know everyone's working massive hours this week. You see them everywhere. You guys sprout up like little mushrooms everywhere, and nobody's complaining. Everybody's smiling. They're powering on through. It's very impressive.
It's much easier making a cocktail nowadays than try to be Stefano Catino. He's an entertainer.
For me, I would say I've been very lucky in my career that lots of people took a chance on me and gave me opportunity. So for me, I would probably try to give that back. So to give other people the opportunity to succeed and to learn and to grow. So.
Yeah, I have a quote: "Straight up with style, and don't forget the smile." Which is when we make the martini, when you look at the guest, also is a life lesson. Always, stand up for what you believe. Doesn't matter what comes in front of you. At least try to face it with a smile and go straight through.
And for me, it's like to share like this passion. For me, passion is what moves everything in our industry. It doesn't matter if you have money or whatever. Passion, and to show how the passion is in everything you make behind the bar and outside the bar, in front of the barrels.
Well,
thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
One of the best round table I've ever been. It became very emotional towards the end. I think we need a drink.
Can you make a martini? Let's ask. What's his name? I don't even know.
Peeling lemons now.
To avoid, that's why everybody has a pre-batch martini, to avoid the stress.
The best. Avoid the stress of Agostino Perrone.
Thank you so much for listening. I am going to be back next week with 4 more guests. It's the third and final of the Maybe Cocktail Festival roundtables, and it is just as big, if not bigger, than the 2 that I've done already. So stick around. I can't wait for you guys to hear our chat from next week. We've got some quirky little insights in there too. So make sure you follow and see you then.